Hello again and welcome back. I'm Michael Fudge, and in this end-to-end example, we will demonstrate how to call APIs. APIs, or Application Program Interfaces as they're known as, allow us to write programs which access other services. In this case, those services will be on the web. For this program, we're gonna write something that asks to input a location like Syracuse, New York, or Tampa, Florida, and then output the weather at that location, specifically the current temperature. Yeah, it might sound difficult to do something like this, but actually it's not so bad once you understand how to call the APIs and how to traverse the Python object that you get back from the API. We'll use two specific APIs to solve this problem. The first one is Google's Geocoding API, which when you give it a friendly location like Tampa, Florida, it returns the global coordinates in latitude and longitude as a result. Then we'll use that latitude and longitude and send that to a weather forecasting API called Dark Sky, which will tell you what the current weather conditions are at that position on the globe. Half the battle in writing a program like this is understanding how the API works. So we're going to spend some time showing you strategies for how to discover what the API does. In this end-to-end example, like all the end-to-end examples in our series, we solve real-world problems in our code. We focus on the process of writing the program, not the actual solution. I'm not going to solve this problem in a single step. I'm not going to solve it linearly. I'm going to break it up into manageable pieces just like I would in real life. This example is based on the content of Lesson 11, which covers web services APIs, and I will use Jupyter Notebook. You're welcome to code along. The source code can be found on GitHub. Here's the link. If you're a student taking my course, like I always say, you have this code on your computer already. It's in your GitHub repository. So let's get started. You can see on my screen, I have an example of what we're trying to do. We're going to input a location like Syracuse, New York, using the Google Geocoding API. Then we're going to use darksky.net to get the current weather at that location. So let me show you a little bit how this works. So I brought up an example of a URL that I put up here, and I'm putting in Syracuse, New York as my location. You can see you call this URL and then you pass in a parameter, address, and then in here, this is the address you want to look up on the globe. And it returns back JSON data. And we saw in other examples that it's very easy to take this JSON data and load it up into a Python dictionary. So we're going to do that. And the point of us loading it up into this Python dictionary is we need to extract this information here, which is the location of Syracuse, New York, in this case, because that is what I put up here. So you can see that this web API is like a little program. It has an input, Syracuse, New York, and then it has an output, a bunch of information about Syracuse, New York. And specifically, I want this information from the output right here. I want location. Okay, let's get started. To read from the web, the easiest way to do it in Python is to use the request module. So I'm going to import that module now. Okay, it's in there. And let's do the geocoding first. Now I could go ahead and ask, please input a location or something like that. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on a very specific location, get that working. Then after I get that working, then I'm going to open up the floodgates and make it work with anything. So let's say location is Syracuse, New York. Start there. All right, the URL to the geocoding API is right here. So I'm going to copy that. Copy that, put that there. So the way the request module works is I'm going to call the get method. Okay, so I might want to get some help on that, help. And you can see you give it a URL, which I have, and then you're going to give it some parameters, and those parameters correspond to the things that go on the URL. So one of the parameters is address, and it's going to say Syracuse, New York. Those parameters are always a dictionary. So let's make our parameters. Address, and the value of it is going to be location, right? Because it says address is the key and the value is Syracuse, New York. Address is the key and the value is location, which is Syracuse, New York. So let's give it a shot here. Let's say the way you always call requests is you say, response, requests, get URL, and then let's pass in the parameters. All right. Let's see what that does. So that is running, and now it's done. Takes a little bit because, again, it's going out on the web. So what does response have in it? Response is an object, and it says 200. Now, if you're familiar with the way the web works, there's a bunch of status codes. 200 means okay, thumbs up, it worked. So let's see what we've got back. Response text. And there's the raw text output. You'll see that this looks very similar to this, except this has been formatted. So we need to take that text and we need to put it in JSON format. Now you could import JSON up here, right? And do that. But what's nice about the request package is it includes a facility to encode the JSON and decode the JSON. So response JSON. Now what this gives you back is a Python object. So if now I can say location data. And then let's just see what that has in it. Now it's a dictionary, right? If I do type location data, it's going to tell me dict for dictionary. It's a dictionary. All right, so what do I want out of this location data? Well, I need to grab the results, right? Location data results. That's a key. And now it's a list. See that square bracket? That means list. If you don't believe me, let's do type location data results. That's a list. Because you might type in Syracuse and it comes back with Syracuse, Italy and Syracuse, New York. So we want the first value in the results because I think we were specific enough here to say what location we want. If you don't believe me, if you just typed in what is the length of the list, there's only one item in that list. Therefore, the first item in that list is item 0. So now this should probably be another dictionary. It is, right? And in here, we want to find the key that has the latitude and longitudes. And I see a bunch of latitudes and longitudes in here, and it says geometry, right? And it says bounds. So bounds are like the upper quadrants of the geometry. But in here where it says location, that gives you what's called an approximate location for Syracuse, New York. And this is going to be close enough for us. So if I want to get those coordinates, it's at result 0 geometry location, like that. So that's going to be the coordinates. Let's see. It's a dictionary of coordinates. Latitude is one key, longitude is another. So this is actually what I want, chords. Awesome. Now that I have this figured out, I should be able to write this entire thing, this cell and that cell, as a nice function. So let's see if we can do this as a function. This is going to be the input. The location comes in, the coordinates come out. Let's see if we can do it. Let's call it get location. Well, let's be a little fancier. Let's say Google geocode location. And then we're going to input a location like that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. Then we're going to get that. We're going to do this and that. And we're going to return chords. All right. So let's see if this works. So there's my function definition. Here's my main program. Step 1, there's my location. Step 2, my coordinates are going to be Google geocode location of this location there. And, of course, I got to show you what the coordinates are. There we go. Just to show you it works, if I change this to Tampa, Florida, I get different latitude and longitude for Tampa, Florida. And I guess I could verify this. Let's go to Google and say, what is the latitude and longitude of Tampa, Florida? Let's ask it. 2782. 2782. 27 minus 82. 27 minus 82 because it's west. Yeah, so that works. That works. It's exactly what we wanted. So this part works. See that? See how I did that? Wasn't so bad, right? Whew. So that's part of it. Now I got to do the dark sky net one. So the way dark sky works is you need a key. The weather service is free, but only up to 1,000 calls to the weather service a day. If you call more than 1,000 times, it's going to cost you. You're going to have to put a credit card in, and it's going to cost you 10,000 calls per dollar. So they do this to kind of rate limit your access. And so here's a link that shows you how to call the API. You need to get your secret key, which I will reset when the video's over, so no one can use mine. So there's my secret key. I need that. So there's the link, and then I put in my secret key here, and then I put in the latitude and then the longitude. Right? So because I'm really bad at this stuff, I'm going to just copy this. Now, you could read the documentation, and I recommend doing that. If you're going to program against any API, you should always read through the documentation and play around with the API to get a feel for how it works. You should never just throw your hands up in the air and say, I don't understand it, right? I mean, this is what it's all about. When you go to program this stuff, you have to read through the docs. Okay? And the docs are pretty straightforward if you go look at them. But I'm not going to do this example for the sake of time. So in this cell, let's start to worry about dark sky, now using these coordinates, right? So I'm going to do another URL here, like that, right? And there's my key. But I don't want this latitude and this longitude because those are some other place. I want to use this latitude and this longitude. I need to put those in, like so. Plus coordinates latitude. I probably should use a format string, right? I want to say %. These are floats here. So %f, comma, %f. And then I want to put in the latitude and the longitude. Like that. That makes more sense to me. So again, this link, and let's just try it out here. Let's just say print URL. And then there's my link, there's my key, there's the latitude, there's the longitude. Latitude, comma, longitude. If I click the link, it should work. If I did something wrong and I click this link, I'm going to get an error. But if I click this link up here, it works. And then there we are. And it says today, believe it or not, it's a clear day, which is pretty rare for Syracuse, New York. And the temperature, oh, I'm sorry, this is still Tampa, Florida. I was like, there's no way it's 90 degrees. Yeah, because remember I changed my example. I changed it to Tampa, Florida, right? So now this is Tampa. And then here's the weather at Tampa. It's 91 degrees. Boy, am I jealous. That sounds like a great day. Okay. Let's get this into Python. And then once we get it into Python, we need to extract out the temperature. And maybe we'll also extract out summary for fun. Okay? So let's give it a shot. So I know my URL works. That's good. Now I need to kind of repeat what I did with Python request. So I need to have response is request get. What am I going to get off the web? I'm going to get this URL. Okay, there's no parameters this time because the way that dark sky works is you don't pass parameters and you just build the URL. So everyone's going to be different. So that's why you kind of have to read the API. They're all going to be different. All right, so what are we going to do? We're going to say weather data. What do we get back from dark sky? We don't get back location data. We don't get that back. We get back weather data. So I say weather data is response JSON because I want to convert it into a Python object. Then let's see what we get, weather data. Let's see what that does. So we've got a dictionary, and then there's an alert. Guess there's a high rip current in effect. That's good to know. And if I kind of go down through here, it said there's another key called currently. You see that? So let's just pull out the currently weather. Let's pull out that key. Currently. I probably don't need to keep calling the API every time, so let me cut this out. You know, if I keep running this, I keep going out to the web and keep, you know, I'm counting, every time I do this, it counts against my 1,000, right? So I don't need to do this again now that it worked. Just do it once, and then I can play with the variable output down here, and I don't need to keep calling my API over and over again. Okay, so weather data currently gives me this information, and I said I wanted the temperature, which is right there, and the summary and temperature. Okay, so let's do this. Summary is weather data currently and what key is it out of this dictionary? It's summary. And temperature is this temperature, like that. And I want to build a dictionary out of this so I can return it. Eventually I'm going to write a function for this, right? I'm not going to do any printing here. So let's build the dictionary. Let's call it conditions. And let's say the temperature is temp. I would say temperature, but I can't spell. And then the summary is the variable summary. And then let's just print conditions. Let's see how that works. Calls the API, it's 91 and clear. Cool. All right, so let's write this as a function. We're going to input the latitude and longitude. We're going to input the coordinates. And we're going to output the conditions, right? Because that's how this program works. If you think about this as its own little program, right? I want to input the coordinates and output the conditions. So let's do that. Get current weather from dark sky. And let's pass in the coordinates. We do that, 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 and we return conditions. And let's try it out with another location. So let's go up here. Let's change it back to Syracuse, New York. Run it. There's my new location, my new coordinates. So then let's run this and let's print. Let's do this. Let's say conditions. Let's call the function like this with the coordinates that we got up there. And then let's just print the conditions. Let's see what we get now. We get 60 degrees and mostly cloudy. That sounds more like Syracuse to me in April. All right, so most of our program is done. It's just about combining it together. So I'm going to move this function up here into my main program, right? So I've got one function that gets me the geocoding, another function that goes to dark sky weather. Then it's a matter of piecing it all together. So location, Syracuse, New York, geocode location, then conditions. I can probably just copy that from down here. Like that. This is my program. My program itself is pretty simple, right? There's my location, there's my coordinates, there's my weather conditions, print the conditions. Now I want to print something out like today it's 69 degrees and mostly cloudy. So I'll do something like that. How about this? Today current weather is %.1f degrees F and %S. So it'll say it's 90 degrees and sunny. Conditions temp, conditions summary. Last but not least, let's no longer hard code it to Syracuse. Well, we should probably make sure it works first. Current weather is 60 degrees and mostly cloudy. All right, now let's change this. Input, enter a location, and I will give you the current weather. Okay. Tacoma, Washington. Current weather is 50 degrees and partly cloudy. Okay, let's verify that. Let's go over here. What is the current weather in Tacoma, Washington? It says 48 and partly cloudy. And the dark sky API, this is Google's API, the dark sky API told me 50 degrees and partly cloudy. So that's pretty close, pretty accurate, right? So let's have a little more fun with this. Try one more time. What is the current weather conditions in Austin, Texas? It's 80 degrees and clear. Very cool. So you can see that this program's pretty simple, not much to it, right? I use the requests library to help me go out to these URLs and call the APIs. And then what I do is I take that JSON data I get back and I parse that JSON data into a Python object. And then at that point, it's a listed dictionary, and it's just a matter of figuring out where the information in that listed dictionary is that I want. And then I repeat that for this other API. This other API is a little different. The Google API, you don't need to give it a key. The dark sky forecast, you need to give it a special key, right? And you have to sign up here. You have to sign up for an account and then get yourself a secret key. And that's all there is to it. Hopefully you found this useful, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye.